as far as like with the parental stuff, if you want to have your kids watch, Iron Fist, watch it. If you want them to watch, uh, if you if you want them to watch The Punisher, watch The Punisher.
Perfect. Yeah.
If you want them to watch Turning Red, put it on. You have all that.
Oh, and that's a
And
perfect segue to our
Yep.
Turning Red. That's a perfect segue to our next topic, which is Pixar losing its creative touch? Now, George, this was a topic you presented to me. I'm going to let you start off, and we'll go from there. Do you think, George, I'll present the question to you. Do you feel Pixar is losing their creative touch?
Honestly, sadly, I really do. I really do. There's just certain elements that it doesn't feel like Pixar to me anymore. Like Pixar had this sort of lightning in a bottle type of effect where you could look at these characters, you can watch these movies, the storyline, and it will just draw you into it where these creators aren't worried about so much as, okay, what is today's time of saying, how can we touch this group of people? How can we touch that group of people? Don't minimalize groups. Just do it for all. And I think that's where Pixar is hitting its mark. And I know a lot of people said, with Turning Red, it's a great movie, this and that, why you're not knocking it, not specifically to me, but just people who are. I watched the film. It was okay, but the animation, the story, it seemed like something that would come out of DreamWorks. It was something that from a long time ago of what Jeffrey Katzenberg wanted Pixar to do as far as with the original Toy Story. He wanted Woody to have like this kind of robust, rough, tough kind of edge sort of thing. And I have to give it to John Lasseter for that. He did not want that. He said, we want to make a film that we want to do. And it's just getting to the point where, yes, the animation in Luca is a completely different type of animation, but it fits the storyline. It fits the way that they have the characters and everything. It fits. When they did Soul, beautiful animation. With Turning Red, I don't know where, for some bizarre reason, that I don't know, just Pixar just dropped the ball on that one, and I feel like they're targeting a specific audience rather than everybody.
Yeah, I saw Turning Red as well, and I did not. I gotta say, I didn't like it. I gotta be 100% real. I didn't like it. I have a lot of criticisms of this movie. I felt that it was a little too. It just, from the minute it starts, it's like just kind of screaming and loud and just like jump cuts everywhere. It just wasn't for me. And look, maybe I'm not the demographic, and that's fair.
But here's the thing. I have, and this is a disclaimer, folks, because this is, when I first saw the teaser trailer for this film, I thought it was kind of Pixar's way of kind of making a statement without actually saying the statement. Okay, you have this young girl who's becoming a teenager, doesn't really know her emotions, and she turns red, a red panda. What does that symbolize? And I'm thinking in my head, well, there could only be one thing. But then you go and you watch the film, and yes, spoiler alert, you have her mother saying, "Oh, did you start your period? Oh yeah, here's all the feminine products. I got pads, I got a heating pad, I got this," and I'm like, "Whoa!" It's like you didn't even have to like make it like a symbolic term. You just came out and said it. It was like, whoa.
Yeah, and it's just, oh man, the movie didn't do it for me. And here's the thing, and a lot of people are probably going to jump on me and say, well, it's not really made for me. You're not the demographic, you're not the target audience, and I totally understand that. But I personally, I actually have enjoyed a lot of films that are in shows that are not in my demo. Look, I loved the hell out of High School Musical, the series. I did a review on it like 2 years ago. Loved it. I ranted and raved about how much I loved it. That show is not in my demo at Okay, is not. I don't even like the movies, and I love the show. I loved it. I think Olivia Rodrigo was phenomenal in that, and Joshua Bassett. It was great. Turning Red for me, it just didn't do it for me. I didn't like it. I just didn't. It wasn't my cup of tea. And the thing is that it just look, the Pixar, like, to answer your question, George, like, is Pixar losing their touch? I'm gonna have to say no. I mean, in general, because I did like Luca a lot. Yeah, I'm not being biased because I'm Italian, but I did like Luca. That was a really, really cute movie with a lot of heart. I loved the hell out of that movie. I loved Soul. Soul was so well done. That was a beautiful movie. Beautiful movie. Pixar has done some really great stuff lately. Unfortunately, Turning Red just wasn't for me. And half of my family is Asian. Okay? Half of my family is Asian. And, while I like to see the representation and the attempt made, I don't think it hit the marks. And a lot of my family who is Asian agreed with that. They didn't really feel like it was a well done attempt in that regard.
Because of what they were trying to make the statement on, it lacked in the storytelling. And that's where a lot of it didn't really make sense to me, because it seems like they were just trying to push this notion of, okay, becoming a teenager, you're going through a certain way, how to control your feelings, your emotions. And it's like, but the storyline, it just didn't fit. It just didn't. And again, as you mentioned, OG, about the demographic, probably doesn't fall in. But I've been watching Pixar films since 1995, since the beginning of Toy Story all the way on. So as I gotten older, it always kind of left my demographic, but I always walked away from these films to say, wow, like this film kind of tugged at my heartstrings, or these characters are real, like they show like real emotion and everything. And I just find that lacking in Turning Red. And yes, I do agree with you, Luca, Soul, definitely. But I think just something with Pixar right now is like they used to be the top dog with animation. And I think, and I hate to say this, but I really think that Disney is kind of losing their faith in the company. And that makes me wonder why maybe that could be the reason why they feel not to even release their films theatrically.
That's a good point. Dre, I know you haven't seen Turning Red.
Yeah.
But what are your feelings on Pixar losing their touch? Do you kind of see this happening right now? Where do you stand on this?
Dre, I just have to say, before you give your take on it, 86 Spider-Man No Way Home, watch Turning Red instead.
Oh, really? You think so, huh? That good? Wow. Okay, I will have to do that. Yeah, I will go off of your recommendation here, and I will hold it to you when I do. No, look. Okay. So much to say. Look, I've heard the argument where it's like, hey, it might not be in your demo, right? That's a load of malarkey. Okay, and the reason is because, okay, the Pixar, Disney, that's what they do. They create 4-quadrant films. Okay, right. I mean they're in the business of family entertainment, especially when it comes to animation, because these films are so expensive to produce. Especially Pixar with the rendering power, with their animators. I mean, they are expensive productions. You simply cannot afford to have a niche film. It has to be, a wide audience. It's just kind of how those things have to be. So this idea that it's like, oh, well, it wasn't for you. It's like, but why? Why not? Right. Why can't it be? Why? I mean, Pixar used to do this incredibly well. They used to create films that maybe normally wouldn't be films that would be 4-quadrant, but do them so well and to a high degree that everybody could get something out of them. Right. You know, the 7 to 70 kind of thing. Doesn't matter how old you are, you get something. You'd come away with it. And I'd say this, George. Pixar and Disney used to be really good at providing a story with messaging, but do it in a way that is complementary to the story and maybe is transparent in the way that it's like you still get the message, but it doesn't feel spoon-fed kind of thing.
Yes. Yeah,
and exactly. It sounds like Turning Red didn't necessarily do that.
No, it didn't. It didn't. It
And
did.
to think that this film
work.
started production back in 2018. So
What year was that? I'm sorry, George?
2018 is when the film started into production, and of course it got delayed because of the pandy and everything. But I mean, 4 years of working on this, and this is the final product we get. It's like,
well,
it's rough. I mean, you know, I think the overall concept that they were going for was pretty cool. I like this idea of a coming of age story. The turning into a panda thing is really cool. It's kind of magical. It's very Disney in that regard. For me, this movie was all about execution. There were just decisions made in this movie that didn't work. If you guys ever watched the making of Frozen 2 on Disney Plus,
awesome documentary. Awesome documentary.
Fantastic documentary. But they talk about a lot in this documentary about how, like, when they were making The Little Mermaid, how like Jeffrey Katzenberg was like really like kind of pressuring to like remove the part of your world scene in Little Mermaid because he was afraid that kids were going to get bored. You know, it's a little slow. And Howard Ashman, God rest his soul, I absolutely love and adore Howard Ashman.
Amazing.
True Disney legend.
Amazing.
True Disney legend. But he stuck to his guns and he said, no, you don't understand. Like we need this scene. This is where the meat of the story is. This is where Ariel kind of gives what she wants. This is what you need it.
Absolutely.
And don't talk down to your audience. Kids will be fine. And thank God Howard Ashman won that debate. Now, here how it relates to Turning Red is I feel like Turning Red didn't learn that lesson. I feel like Turning Red is from the minute it starts to the minute it ends, it's hyperactive, in your face, loud, because they don't want to lose the audience. They think that kids can't handle a slow scene for a few minutes, and that's just not true. Howard Ashman taught us that. Walt Disney taught us that. You know, I don't know. I give kids more credit than that. I think you could. I think they needed to slow it down and tone it down. It was too much. It was just too much. It was exhausting.
Listen, I'm gonna go out on a limb here. We really never talked about this before, and I saw this tweet recently, and I was like, you know what? This kind of sums up in a nutshell, right? George, I think you referenced this. I want to add to that point. Breaking: George Lucas and Kathleen Kennedy received a joint award together last night from the Producers Guild, right? While accepting the award, George Lucas said that his goal as producer was always to do the impossible, right? In terms of the filmmaking context, right? Kennedy said that her goal was to promote women, diversity, and social justice. And look, it's fine to have that goal, right? It's fine to want to do that. Go out and do it. But the difference between the two is that George, I think, wanted to create an amazing story that maybe imparted those lessons into it. Whereas then Kathleen Kennedy, that is kind of the goal. And when it overrides the story, when it really takes it over, it feels forced. And people retreat from it and instead of embracing it, right?
Right.
My feeling, I think I'm getting from Turning Red is if you do want to impart this kind of messaging and put in these stories, the story needs to come first and foremost. And it really, you really have to have your audience in mind, not just, to your point, OG, not just to the kids, but to the adults as well. Yeah. Because ultimately the adults are the decision makers. they're going to buy the film or not. And that's just what it comes down to.
And then you look at a film like Up, which is honestly on my top 5 as far as like Pixar goes. You have this almost like a 4-minute ballad of nothing but music and a sequence where it shows you life and death in the very beginning, right off the back in the beginning of the film. And it's like people were like emotionally drained after those 4 minutes, and the movie didn't even start yet, but it sets the tone of the film of where it's going to end up leading to. So it makes a full circle where you say, okay, now that makes sense.
Up, Up I mean, people talk about theatrical releases and all that, but Up was nominated for Best Picture. Not Best Animated Film, not Best, big budget film. It was nominated for Best Picture. It was that good. That was the apex of animation for anybody. That's something Walt couldn't even do.
Right.
And to see where they've gone from not even getting a theatrical release, but producing something that's, I mean, I suppose it is divisive. If I liken this to maybe like, you ever see Rotten Tomatoes where it's like the critics score is like way high and then the audience score is way low. I kind of feel it like that. Like, yes, this is a critic's darling, and it does have some things going for it. At least it sounds like. But it just doesn't connect with audiences, and that's really where it needs to connect, especially if it's going to be a franchise worth supporting in the parks or anything else.